The next night, and I have the shite. I done a video this morning, so I have my t-shirt on now. So, now, back to this fucking movie, fucking review, fuck. Okay, so, I find the scenes with where Gage dies to be heartbreaking, because you see the aftermath, as I mentioned, and you do get to see him come home looking all depressed as he would be in the family's there. He's like, "Daddy, I'm sorry. I miss Gage." He's like, "Is that Gage in heaven's?" Like, "I don't know, sweetie." He's like, "Is he? Could he be stopping? I bet if I pray hard enough, he'll bring him back and all that stuff." And he says it and all that kind of shit. And then eventually, like, oh no, she goes to your mom. They're talking in the kitchen like, "Sorry, Lewis. It's bad, Lewis. Make up with me, Lewis." No, he doesn't say that, but like he goes, "It's bad, Lewis. I'm sorry, Lewis," and all that stuff. And essentially, he's sort of like, "It's awful, it's my fault," and all that kind of shit. And then she comes in and is like, "Oh, what do you got there?" It's like, "I got this," and so she shows a photo of Gage. "Oh, you pulled him in the wagon. That's a lovely picture, isn't that lovely? Bet you liked that, didn't he?" And it's like, those moments make you fucking want to break down crying. Like, I swear, I almost went like, "Oh no, I can't." And like, like, I often forget when I watch this movie that Gage was a full-on baby. He's in his diaper, his nappy, his diaper. He's like, "Uh oh," and you're like, "What the fuck?" So you forget that aspect. And it's like, "I'm gonna pray hard enough, and hopefully God will bring him back." And he's like, "Oh, God doesn't do things like that. I don't think you do things like that." He's like, "But pray hard." And I was like, "Will you bring him back, Dad?" He's like, "No, I can't. Maybe if I pray hard enough, I will." "No, he can't." And then he just runs over. She runs over and just starts breaking down, crying. And you're like, holy fucking shit, you know, holy fucking shit. Uh, And then he's like, "Your daughter needs you, Lewis. You gotta be here for her." "Okay, well, Gage isn't here anymore, is he?" And goes off and all that. And it's just this heartbreaking scene, you know. And you see the mother crying. The father goes upstairs, um, sits on the bed and just he starts crying, or is he in the kitchen, walks up and he just starts breaking down. Brilliant performance, really realistic, and walks into the bedroom, falls down, just cries. The mother's crying and stuff, and it's just such a heartbreaking scene to watch, you know. Um, and the cat's there, and I think that's when he's like, "Fuck off!" He's like, "Fuck you, Furball!" Like that's when he really takes his rage out on Church because of the death of Gage. And then he goes to, "You'll be okay, Lewis. You'll get through it," and all that kind of stuff. But more and more weird things begin to happen. Um, as I said, that scene where the daughter is having a nightmare about Gage and Crandall digging up Gage. No, sorry, Lewis and Crandall digging up Gage is like, holy fuck, because you get this panning shot of the the wall with all the photos on it. You just heard, "Oh, no, no." It's like, "No, no, what's wrong, sweetie?" "Oh, mommy." And she's like, "What's wrong?" It's just one of your bad dreams. Like, "No, mommy, it's gonna happen. I had a dream that he brought the cat, the church died, brought it back. I had a dream that Daddy and Mr. Crandall are going to do something bad and dig up Gage. What is it? They're going to do something really bad." It's like, "No, it's just a dream. It's okay." "But I miss him." It's like, "It's okay, it's okay." And you're like, you feel so bad for the little girl. She's crying. It's disturbing. And it's just really brilliant acting from that actress. But that's another thing about the movie. It's just fantastic performances. Um, and essentially, you know, the movie from then on out, you know, we get the scene with Gage's funeral, and it's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. Seeing the tiny coffin made of this weird material and all of that kind of stuff. And essentially, it's happening again. Why is my jaw like so sore when I talk about this movie? I don't know why. I don't know, but and it's there at the funeral and everyone's there and the father's like, I knew something like this would happen. Where were you? Where were you, you son of a bitch, when he was on the road? Punch him in the face, like, stop it, and all that, come on. And he's like, fuck yeah, you have no right. It's like, seriously, it's your son's funeral. Relax. But just before that, he hits the coffin and his arm comes out, like, and all that shit, and he's like, stop it. And then he's hearing Gage's voice, and it's just heartbreaking. And then you get another scene, it's like, I'm sorry, what happened to you? But and before that, Crandall's coming over, Lewis, trying to calm him down and stuff. But we then get another scene that I just find heartbreaking. They're sitting there at the table, and stuff like that, and essentially sitting there at the table, and he's like, I don't know if you could do that. He's like, I just wish I could some way to bring him back. No, Lewis, no. Sometimes dead is better. And then essentially what ends up happening is he's like, Lewis, I don't think it's good. I think I murdered you. You could say that I'm responsible for your son's death. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're not. He's like, I feel like I killed your son. It's like, no, you didn't. It's like, God damn it, I did. He's like, I introduced you to this place and now this force is after taking your son, your boy. And it's such a realistic, grounded performance. And you're like, oh, fuck. And you feel bad for Crandall when he starts crying because it's like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And so that happens, and then like he's like, something happened. I'm telling you, sometimes dead is better. There was a time someone's husband got killed, and then like, it's like dad, and then he went and buried it, and you get another flashback kind of scene, and then again, like the girl's there, and then the husband comes back out of the grave, comes back running like a fucking weird zombie, and she's like, and he's like, and then stop, ended up beating her to death and killing her. And then eventually they went into the house, and then a bunch of people came like, come on, let's go. And then they lit torches, a little bit like Frankenstein's monster in a way. It's like, let's go. And then they torched the house. Take that, you son of a bitch. He's on fire. It's like, come on, he's dead. Thing goes on fire. It's like, sometimes dead is better. Sometimes dead is better. And he keeps saying it. I'm telling you, Lewis, sometimes dead is better. And the house goes on fire. It's like, and then he goes, don't think about doing it, Lewis. I wouldn't do it. And he goes, sometimes dead is better. It's like, I don't know. How do you know he wasn't just a psychopath like Lewis? Don't do it. I'm not listening to this. And then he goes, and then once again, you get a scene that's just heartbreaking. I love when the parents are like, what's up with her? It's like, there's this guy, there's this ghost. He's like, he's a good ghost. He's trying to help us and all that. And before that, she's going on about, oh, this ghost told me. This guy told me. She says that to Lewis at the airport. It's like, a ghost? Who's that? It's like, oh, he's a friendly ghost. And then she says it to the mother. No, she doesn't say friendly ghost at the airport, but then she says to the mother, he's a friendly ghost that's trying to help us and all that kind of stuff. But then, like, the movie gets more gripping as it goes along. Like, this movie just keeps you invested constantly. It's why it's a fucking classic, in my opinion. And I do agree with Matthew Davis. It's not, my friend Matthew Davis Media, it's not often talked about enough, I find. Because he's a big fan of this movie as well. And he actually has this exact same Blu-ray. Well, at least I think he does, unless he got it in 4K, but I don't know if it's out in 4K. But he has this exact same Blu-ray, which is cool. I think we got it the same year as well, 2014. Did it come out in 2014? The Blu-ray, I'm saying. Anyway, Paramount also done this movie. Love the logo, the old logo. Oh, shit, boy. Anyway, so, you know, I like when the mother's like, okay, and then she's downstairs, walks downstairs, she goes, says the ghost's name, and then the ghost is like whispering in her ear and all that other shit. So then drives back, and then she obviously stops and it's like, hey, stop, and the truck's like, please, the guys in the truck's like, come on in, honey, and drives off. It's like, thank you, come on in, beautiful, or something like that, and then drives him home. She's like, thank you. It's like, it was my pleasure. And that's when she gets stranded while she's walking at night time. So I love the atmosphere, the houses, the road, that brilliantness. And then we get to the thing the movie's the most famous for. We get an scene where Lewis wakes up, the ghost like, Lewis, don't do it, and I was like, I have to. He's like, Lewis, don't do it, and walks to the graveyard at daytime. He's like, don't do it, Lewis. He sees him in the distance. Don't do it, and he's like, I have to. You know, that's when he sees this guy. It's like, no, you don't, Lewis. And I love the makeup effects and the practical effects and all that shit, the gore. And he's just sitting there at Gage's grave drinking. It's like, I could have saved you. I'm sorry, I love you, and all this stuff. And it's like, oh shit. And then he's like, oh, he's not doing it. And then you get just this amazing fucking scene later on that night. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna break you out of here. And he's like, don't do it, Lewis. And then he starts digging up the grave, and it kind of cuts back and forth, digs it up, opens the coffin, and he's like, oh no, picks him up. He goes, I'm so sorry. And it's like such a heartbreaking, disturbing scene, and you're like, oh my god, that's fucking horrible. It's like, ugh, you know. So he's like that, and then he walks up the hill. It's like, come on, walks through the entire place up the hill again to the circle at night, and he goes, come back to me, Gage. Buries him in it, and then he goes home, walks all the way home, just comes there covered in dirt, and just goes and collapses on the bed, and you're like, oh fuck, some serious shit's gonna go down. And in this finale, some fucking serious shit does go down. Let me tell you that now, Sonny. That was weird. Anyway, and I find that that fucking scene alone is like heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's a fucking heartbreaking sequence, you know. And I've had to hurt my fucking arse there. Sorry. And so that happens, and then I love this part where like he's there in bed, and then I think Gage's hand comes up like, and then like he just kind of walks in the door, and I think the cat George follows him in. He's like, you know, when it's creepy. It's creepy because now he's evil Gage, so a killer baby essentially. Which I remember briefly seeing a horror documentary that showed this when I was about 9. I think it was on Halloween night 2009, or the day after, or the day just before Halloween, or was it 2010 or something. It frightened the fucking shit out of me. It was at night time as well. But he's there, you know, wakes up, goes down stairs, sees something happen. It's like, what's happening and all that. And then I like the scene when they're going away. A scene that I like is like when the mother, Dory, and the daughter are going to stay at the mother and father's house. And this is actually a scene I really did like. They go to the airport because Dory's father was being a fucking scumbag, and he goes, it's like, right, see ya, stay safe. And then like, back soon, Doc, like, yeah, well, stay safe, okay? It's like, okay, yeah. It's like, and then I love the part where she gets out, when the little girl gets out of the car. This is cool, isn't it, Daddy? It's like, yeah. And then he's like, I love the part where he kind of scares, like, oh, this is cemetery for dead pets to come back to life. It's like, no, I love that line that he says, oh, in this graveyard, uh, the dead speak, and she goes, oh, no, 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 don't worry, not out loud. I love that line. It's great. Yeah, and she's kind of like, oh, you know, this is where the dead speak, and I like that kind of line. Anyway, but a scene I really love is like where it's like, yeah, I'll be home later, and then the father, Dory's father, apologizes, going, Lewis, I'm really sorry. My behavior was unacceptable, and it's like I just went a little bit crazy. It's like, yeah, well, I think we're all going a little crazy. Will you forgive me? He's like, yeah. Shakes his hand, walks off. So I'm like, I like that scene, but getting into the third act of this film. This third act is fucking brilliant. It's a brilliant third act. I think the way that it's done is suspenseful. It's original. I like it. He walks in, he's like, and he sees the footprints that Gage has left and all that, and he gets a phone call and all that. But I'll get to that part actually in a sec. Essentially, what happens is the mother comes home like, hello, it's nighttime and all that. No, what happens is, what's his face? Mr. Crandall comes in, Judy Crandall comes in, and he's like, hello, Lois, are you there? At night, and it's like, and hears all the sounds, and like, Lois, and he's there in like his slippers. I'm trying to think, is it in his house that he's in? He could be in his house, or is it somewhere else? Possibly his house, I don't know. Anyway, and then he's like, you know, cuts down to like the backs of his feet, because it's his feet. Because, alright, because, you know, they're trying to build up tension, like, oh, something's going to happen here. And essentially, he's like, come on, let's go play hide and go seek, come on, let's go. He's like, Gage, is that you making all that noise? And then, out of fucking nowhere, Gage gets a fucking switchblade, like, come on, and then fucking cuts his foot back was full, like, he's like, jumps down, like, it's like, no, he starts stabbing him, like, he's like, no, and then he starts going, eating his fucking mouth and face, and the practical gore effects in that are just fucking excellent. The way the fuck gets fucked up, the way the mouth gets fucked up, it's like, and he's there dead, runs off. I love that. And then, of course, the mother comes in, hello? Anyone's like, Mommy, let's go play hide and go seek. And she's walking around upstairs and the room's all weird and the clock's there. And, it's like, and then essentially she sees her sister like, oh, hello, Dory. She's like, oh, I'm gonna get you. I'm disgusting. You wish I was dead. Me and Gage are gonna get you. She's like, no. And then Gage is like, come on, Mommy, let's play hide and go seek. And then she goes, and she's like, Gage, and he has a knife, like, no, Gage, no, and then fucking Gage just fucking kills her, stabs her, and all that. And it is creepy the way he runs around, and the practical effects and the face he makes and the hair looking different and the clothes he's wearing. It's just creepy as fuck. And you're like, yeah, Miko Hughes is scary. I can see why they wanted him to be in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So, yeah. Then we have a great scene after that. The next morning when he sees the footsteps and he's like, what's happening? He looks around and then the phone rings and he's like, hello, Lewis? He's like, hey, what's up? He's like, oh, we're just wondering, Dory hasn't come home. And it's like, yeah, she's fine. Oh, could I go up and talk to her? He's like, she's sleeping. Lewis, it's just, your daughter's having one of her crazy dreams again. She had a dream her mother died. She's fine. Okay. Then puts the phone down. It's like, I'll check her. It's like, okay, I can't talk right now. And he sees the footprints, like, I can't talk right now. Goes, sees church, and then we get into the finale where the phone rings. It's like, God damn it, I said I couldn't talk right now. And he's like, hello, Daddy. Wanna play hide and go seek? It's like, Gage, First I played with Mr. Crandall, and then with Mommy. What did you do? And now I want to play we had an awful good time. And now I want to play with you. And he's like, what did you do? Come and find me. He's like, ah. And then you get into the final act. It is creepy as all living fucking shit. Holy fuck. He goes in, he's like, ah, grabs this fucking needle thing, goes up to Church. Church is like, ah, in the driveway as he grabs him, like, come here, you, stabs him. He's like, ah, falls, goes into the fucking house. He's like, okay, where are you, Gage? And all that. Finds his body's wife, like, ah, finds Story's wife. Oh, he's like, you gotta be careful, and all that. And then Gage, he goes up to the attic, and Gage just goes, ah, jumps down, and you see the prosthetic face. He's like, ah, no, Dad. He's like, ah. It's like, come and get me. He's like, ah, come and get me. He runs away. He's like, ah, stabs him. Ah, fuck. And it's this amazing fight. Like, ah, ah, ah. He's like, Gage, stop it. He falls over. Like, Gage, come on. Ah, ah, ah. Tries to bite him, and it's like this epic fucking finale. And he's running at him, like, ah, ah, stabbing him and shit. Comes at him as he grabs him. And then this is the heartbreaking scene, in my opinion. This scene is just heartbreaking. He grabs Gage and he goes, here you go. Stabs the needle into his neck. He goes, ah, ah, ah. And then he just turns around. No fair. And then walks off. No fair, no fair, no fair, no fair. And just goes, oh, dies. It's like, ah. And then, essentially, what he does is he goes like, what are you doing? And then starts pouring gasoline everywhere, lights a match, lights the house on fire. It goes on fire. You actually see Gage's body burn, which is fucking shocking. Walks out of the house, takes Story out of the house. It's like, what are you doing? And then the ghost is like, what are you doing, Lewis? Lewis, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta do it. I waited too long with Gage, but not with Dory, because like he doesn't do it until a couple of days later, because Crandall said to him, he's like, you asked me, could I bury a person up there? I lied to you. I wasn't 100% honest with you. He's like, what? He's like, I'm trying to tell you, goddammit. He's like, I asked you, can you bury a person up there? I said, no, but you can. And that's when he goes and tells the story. He's like, I waited too long. He's like, Lewis, Lewis, Lewis. Then he goes there, starts undigging the grave, because we do see a couple of days after Gage's death as well, because like that's kind of like the last 40 minutes or 50 minutes of the movie, because the movie's like just under 2 hours. Yeah, it's 102 minutes. So Gage doesn't die for like the 48-minute mark, and then like or something, and then later on we see the rest of the movie, like, which is like an hour 47, I believe, is him being dead and dealing with the aftermath. So he's like, Lewis, and digs him up, puts her back in, goes home, and then she rises from the grave. She opens the door, comes back in. He's like, honey. And then at that moment, you're like, okay, I don't like Lewis at this stage, because I understand you love your wife, but she has half an eyeball hanging out, and it's gory, and goo and blood's coming out, with brilliant practical effect. And then he's like, come on, they start making out or whatever. Then she grabs the knife, and then goes, and then cuts the back, and he goes, ah! And the movie ends like that. And I love that scene. I love how creepy and gritty that this film is. I love the way it's shot. I love the creepy music. I think that the sinister humour with Gage is brilliant. I think Gage's death is heartbreaking. I think the movie has a lot of emotional moments, a lot of brilliant practical effects, some funny moments, even with like, you know, how he's like, fuck you, fuzzball, and all, like with Church and with the rat and all. But the movie's dark, it's sinister. I love the practical effects, the acting, the story, the writing is brilliant, visually lovely to look at, the editing, the way it's shot, everything about it, really. It's honestly a perfect movie. I'd honestly give it a 10 out of 10. It's a fucking classic masterpiece. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But even the way the practical effects are at the end, the original music, obviously Sheena is a punk rocker. Obviously I like when the truck's driving, you hear the music, and then when the car's driving in. But of course, an amazing theme song at the end. You know, the Ramones. I don't wanna be buried in a pet cemetery. I don't want to live my life again, which is great because it was made for the movie. It was on their Brain Dead album, and it's a brilliant, brilliant movie. Love the music video as well. So here's the front, spine, back. Once again, the print on this Blu-ray is great. There's Gage, and then there's the Ghost guy. So yeah, great American Blu-ray. Definitely get it on Blu-ray if you haven't. There's great special features on this as well. Film and the horror, the character, Stephen King territory, commentary by director Mary Lambert, who she done a great job, or is it man? I don't know. Yeah, it was woman. I don't know. Anyway, great job. Love the movie. That was my movie review of Pet Semetary. See you guys later. Bye.